The call came in on Christmas Day, a fracture in the holiday's cheer. It wasn't a voice of clarity, but a sound, a raw human noise of pure panic swallowed by the static of an old phone line. A man, his identity lost to his own shock, was trying to form words around a terror so deep it was almost incomprehensible. He spoke of a silence where there should have been laughter, an empty house on the fullest day of the year. His wife was gone, her friends were gone. They had left for the mall on Christmas Eve, a simple trip for last-minute gifts, and had simply evaporated. Their car was the only thing that remained. A silent empty shell discovered in the sprawling parking lot of the Seminary South Mall. It sat perfectly parked as if waiting for its owners to return from a quick errand. The doors were locked, the windows sealed. Inside, their purses sat on the seats. Wrapped Christmas presents lay in the back, colorful and hopeful. This wasn't a missing persons case. It was a void. 3 lives vanished into the bright, ordinary Texas air on Christmas Eve, leaving behind a vehicle full of everyday life and a single haunting question: how does the world simply swallow people whole? Welcome to Behind the Yellow Tape. I'm Mimi, and here we share some of the most spine-chilling, gut-stirring, mysterious crime stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. So if mystery and crime is your cup of tea, then you'll definitely get your fill here. We upload every Wednesday at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you love a midweek dose of suspense, whether from your favorite seat, the car, before bed, or during your favorite activity, then leave a like to help build the algorithm. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. Now, let's take a step behind the yellow tape. The investigation began not with a body, not with a cry for help, but with a profound and chilling absence. The epicenter of this mystery was a canary-yellow Chevrolet Vega, parked with an almost polite normalcy in the sprawling sun-bleached lot of the Seminary South Mall. To the first patrol officers on the scene, it was a routine call, a found vehicle. The man tasked with finding the answers was Lieutenant Michael Graves. He was a detective built not for speed, but for endurance. A man with a face etched by too many late nights and too much bad coffee, who carried the weight of every cold case in the slump of his shoulders. He didn't believe in hunches, he believed in patterns. And as he arrived on the scene, he was looking for the pattern hidden within the silence. He circled the car like a predator with no prey in sight. His eyes cataloged the unsettling normalcy. The car was locked, immaculate. No scratches, no dents. The tires weren't flat. It wasn't a vehicle in distress. It was a preserved moment in time. Inside, visible through the glass, was a ghostly picture of a life uninterrupted. Neatly wrapped Christmas presents, adorned with cheerful bows and festive paper, sat stacked on the passenger seat and back seat. They were not hidden in the trunk, but displayed as if just purchased, waiting to be delivered. He could make out the shape of what looked like a sweater box, a long thin package that might have been a bottle of perfume. But the silence screamed of what wasn't there. There were no purses, no wallet, no keys. Car keys, house keys, the very keys to their lives was missing. This single detail was a fissure in the logic of the scene. If they had left voluntarily, why take their purses but leave the Christmas gifts? If they had been forced, why was there no sign of a struggle? Not a single scuff mark on the pavement around the car. No frantic scratch at the door handle. The driver's side window was rolled up tight. Lieutenant Graves placed a hand on the roof of the Vega. The Texas sun had baked the yellow paint, making it hot to the touch. But standing there, he felt a cold dread seep into his bones. This wasn't a case of someone running away. A runaway doesn't abandon the tangible proof of their love, the gifts for their family. This wasn't a simple crime of violence. Violence is messy, loud, and leaves a stain. It doesn't allow victims to neatly lock their cars behind them as they're abducted. This was something else entirely, something calculated, something clean, and something deeply, profoundly wrong. 3 women had been here, in this very spot, filled with the simple, joyful mission of Christmas shopping. And now, they were gone, leaving behind a perfect yellow shell and a puzzle that seemed to have no edges, no beginning, and no end. The only thing they left behind was an echo of their absence, and it was deafening. With the car offering no mechanical clues, Lieutenant Graves turned his investigation inward into the lives of the vanished. He began to build a profile, not of a predator, but of the prey. And with each interview, each photograph held by a trembling hand, the 3 missing girls became the 3 distinct, vibrant ghosts haunting his case file. He sat with the young husband who initially made the call, Tommy Trlica, age 17, his own life shattered, devastated as he talked about the life of his wife at just 17. Graves learned that Rachel, already a young mother, adored her infant son. She was the responsible one, the planner of the group, the one who had kept a careful eye on the time. She wasn't a flight risk, she was a cornerstone, with a baby waiting at home for his mother to return. He spoke with the devastated family of Renee Wilson, only 14 years old. They showed him a gift she had been so excited to give her boyfriend, a small, carefully chosen token of young love. She was Rachel's best friend, caught in that beautiful, awkward transition from childhood to adolescence, her entire future a promise yet to be unwrapped. He met the grieving parents of Julie Moseley, also 14. She was described as the bubbly one, the one whose laughter was a constant, infectious soundtrack. The laughter was now gone, replaced by a crushing heavy quiet, in a home where a brightly wrapped present with her name on it still sat beneath the Christmas tree. In any investigation like this, the first hard rule is to look at the spouse. Lieutenant Graves had to scrutinize Tommy, but the facts cleared him almost immediately. He had an ironclad alibi clocked in at the factory miles away. The logistics were impossible. How could he, one young man, a teenager himself, dispose of 3 people in the middle of a busy holiday afternoon without a single trace? There was no motive, no history of trouble. Tommy wasn't a suspect, he was another victim. A young father left to raise his son alone, forever haunted by the ghost of his wife and the taunting letter that would arrive a year later. A letter that cruelly pointed a shaky finger away from him and toward a shadow that has never been identified. Those were not runaways. They were girls with deep roots. They had people who loved them, Christmas trees glowing in their living rooms, and futures they were eagerly stepping into. Every piece of their lives, every photograph, and every memory shared by their families hammered one true home. They would have not left willingly. They had every reason to come home. The Seminary South Mall became Graves' obsession. It was a temple of cheerful commerce that had become a house of horrors. He walked the polished floors long after the shops had closed, the echo of his own footsteps a mockery of the 3 sets that had vanished. He retraced their last known steps. They were seen in a department store looking at jeans, caught in a fleeting moment of normalcy. They were heard laughing. They were witness to their own vibrant lives, right up until the moment they walked out of the automatic doors. And that's where the trail died. It ended not with a bang, but at the curb. The parking lot stretched out, a vast anonymous sea of asphalt. There were no security cameras watching that particular slice of the lot in 1974. No one remembered seeing them get into another car. No one heard a scream. There were no dropped earrings, no torn scraps of clothing. It was a perfect, maddening dead end. 3 girls had walked out of a busy mall on Christmas Eve and stepped off the face of the earth. The case was no longer about finding clues. It was about solving a magic trick. And Lieutenant Graves was staring at the empty box, utterly baffled. For 12 long months, the case had been freezing solid, a glacier of dead ends and frustrating hopes. Then, on the 1-year anniversary of the disappearance, as if it timed for maximum cruelty, the ice cracked. It came not with a body, but with a letter. A typed letter, addressed to a young man named Tommy Trlica, Rachel's husband. It wasn't a ransom note. It was a psychological bullet aimed directly at his broken heart. The letter was a masterwork of malice. It taunted him. It promised the girls were safe and sound. A phrase that dripped with sinister irony, and it commanded in cold and personal typewriter font, "Just forget them." It was signed not with a name, but with a strange cryptic symbol, a single looping line that looked almost like a question mark drawn in one continuous stroke. For Lieutenant Graves, this wasn't a message of hope. It was a confession of control. This was no longer a mystery of a random accident. This was a confirmed abduction. The author wasn't just a kidnapper. He was a puppeteer, pulling the strings of a young husband's grief from the shadows, savoring the pain he had caused. The letter pointed to a mind that was organized, patient, and deeply sadistically cruel. With this new chilling piece of the puzzle, the entire crime scene shifted in Graves' mind. The lack of struggle, the locked car, the missing purses, it all snapped into a terrifying new focus. The evidence, or the profound lack of it, was now painting a horrifying picture. His mind, trained to reconstruct chaos, now began to reconstruct a different kind of moment, one of chilling compliance. He saw it unfold under the bright, indifferent Texas sun. The 3 girls, their arms full of cheerfully wrapped packages, laughing as they approached their yellow Vega. He saw a man approach them, not a monster, not a snarling friend, but someone with a calm, authoritative voice, a man who knew how to command trust. Perhaps he flashed a badge, a police officer, a security guard. Perhaps he simply used a tone of effortless authority, asking for their help with a minor issue. Someone believable, someone convincing. There was no struggle because in that crucial moment, they did not know they were in danger. They walked under their own power into another vehicle. The horror began not with a scream, but with a quiet click of a car door locking from inside. By the time they realized the truth, they were already in motion, already captured. And their own yellow Vega, it was left behind, locked neatly. A perfect, untouched tombstone in a sea of asphalt. A silent momentum to the moment they vanished from the world. Not by force, but by a terrible, calculated deception. The killer hadn't left a single physical clue because he had never needed to fight them. He had simply asked, and they had followed. The only thing he left behind was a typed letter to a grieving teenager named Tommy, a ghost whispering from the shadows that he had won. Some cases are solved, some go cold, and then there are cases like this one that never truly close. They just become a permanent haunting weight on the soul of a city and on the detective who lived it. Lieutenant Graves would carry the ghosts of Rachel, Renee, and Julie for the rest of his career. He would see their faces in crowded malls, hear their laughter in the wind. The canary-yellow Vega, that silent witness, was eventually sold. Its secret sealed forever. The pages of the case file yellowed and became brittle with age, but the questions written on them remained sharp and urgent as the day they were first asked. Time, the one thing that is supposed to heal, became its own kind of torture. The parents of the girls grew old, their hope curdling into a profound, lifelong grief. They went to their graves without answers, without the peace of knowing what happened to their children. The infant son Rachel left behind grew into a man, his entire life shadowed by the absence of a mother who vanished while buying his Christmas gifts, his first Christmas gifts. The hole they left behind did not close, it was inherited. There were suspects, of course. A notorious serial killer named Coral Eugene Watts, a predator who roamed Texas during that era, briefly flickered across the radar. He was a plausible monster, a man who claimed to have killed dozens of women. But the connection was circumstantial, a ghost of possibility that could never be proven, leaving only another maddening what if in the file. The disappearance of the Fort Worth trio is not a cold case, it's a ghost mystery, but it's not written in the whispers of an old house. It's written in the stark, silent evidence of a car full of untouched Christmas presents. It's written in the cruel typed words of a single letter telling a young woman's husband to just forget the love of his life. It's written in the final fading footsteps of 3 young women who walked out of a bustling mall into a void. They vanished not in darkness, but in the bright, cheerful light of a Christmas Eve, and in doing so, they left behind a mystery that refuses to die, an echo in a parking lot that asks over and over and over again, what happened to the girls in the yellow car? Some stories don't have an ending. They only have a lasting silence. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. Until next time, I'm Mimi, and this was a journey behind the yellow tape.